Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Almighty One God, who is most gracious and merciful. Dear friends, I have started a series of lectures in Quran, science, and arts. These are the contribution of Muslims in medieval time, golden times. And it has been forgotten intentionally by non-Muslims, and also Muslims are totally ignorant of that. They don't know that these were the Muslims who provided development, growth in arts and science for 1000 years, 1 millennium. And they have to revert to this research of science and arts. But I'm extremely sorry that traditionalist Maulvis, they have created such circumstances that Muslims don't go for this research. So we're talking, this is next lecture of fine and arts, fine and minor arts, contribution of Muslims in fine and minor arts. This second lecture, during the regimes, the Muslims soon became great builders and produced skillful artisans. Their genius realized definite architectural ideas with acute technical insight. Their ideological objections to the presentation of human form prevented the growth of painting and the sculpture among them. But on the other hand, they showed great artistic taste and ingenuity in the ornamentation and design of natural objects, which surpassed all presentations of their predecessors. The Muslim artists, artisans, and craftsmen soon acquired such a reputation that their products were keenly sought in the royal houses of distant Europe. The most casual survey of Islamic art will show that ornamental design must be ranked as the outstanding minor art evolved by Muslim genius. It was written by a Western writer. In place of artistic decoration through presentation of human images in color or mortar, Muslim evolved another feature of ornamentation by the use of Arab inscriptions. Passages from the Holy Quran and the name as well as date of death were artistically inscribed on the graves of important people. The Arabs showed great ingenuity in the artistic renderings of Arab fetters and stone, papers and woods, which immensely popularized this art in Islamic countries. Later, during the closing period of Abbasid Caliphate and the Mughal Empire of India, passages from the Holy Quran and verses of Persian poets were artistically inscribed on the walls of tombs and mosques. The front arch of the famous Taj Mahal of Agra presents an unique specimen of an artistic inscription from the Holy Quran. Pottery made of clay and glass were developed to a high standard of perfection in Muslim countries. The chief beauty of high-class pottery manufactured in Islamic countries lay in the floral design, neat finish, rows of colored glazed surfaces. China had been the workshop of high-class pottery long before the advent of Islam. But after the 9th century AD, Muslim potters rivaled and even excelled their Chinese counterparts. According to Western writers, blue and white colors were used for pottery in China. But the typical blue was an innovation of Muslim potters, and even in China it was known as Muhammadan blue. This color was superbly used on certain wares made at the Kutaya during the 5th and 6th, 15th and 16th centuries AD. As regards artisanship, Muslims pottery occupies an outstanding place. The Muslim potters exhibited great originality by inventing new designs. The countries have revealed high-class glazed pottery in the reigns of Cairo, Samarra, which is old Baghdad, and Ray. In the fields of luster or the glazed pottery, Muslims achieved great success. Places of such wares of different varieties used during the 10th century AD have been found in North Africa and Spain. Old Cairo was a great center of pottery making from the 9th century to the 11th century AD, and the famous Persian travelers Nasir Khosrow was described in detail the wares used there during the 9th century AD. During the regime of Abbasid, art and architecture registered phenomenal progress. The excavations at the Samarra have brought out exceptionally high-class wares used by the Abbasid. The pottery bears even the date of manufacture and hence is of much historical value. Saad was the most skilled potter who signed his wares. Egypt didn't lag behind, and luster paintings was an innovation of Egyptian potters. The material used in Egypt was different from the pink and yellowish Baghdad clay. The Spanish Muslims too developed this handicraft to high degree and created a new tradition known as Hispano-Masqui. Valencia was the center of painted pottery and specialized in the manufacture of drug jars. The Italians later successfully emulated Spanish luster pottery. Toledo and Cordova and Malaga made exquisite pottery. The Iranian wares, like those of Egypt, were made of a hard white paste with transparent alkaline glaze, but these were of fine quality. Iran, which has been the cradle of Islamic cultures, introduced ornamentation in pottery. Sultanabad in Persia was the manufacturing center of a special type of dark blue and black wares during the 13th and 14th century. Ray was a great center of the ceramic industry and made typical miniature wares. The craftsmen in Ray introduced several novelties. Abul Qasim, a member of a distinguished family of Iranian potters, had written a treatise in 1301 AD on the technique of pottery making adopted by the Seljuk Turk potters. The manuscript of this treatise is available in the Museum of Istanbul. The Seljuks wares are known for their glaze, wealth of bright color, and hardness. The floral designs were commonly used in the pottery made in the Damascus and Persia, but the Persian wares of this type were exceptionally graceful. The chief characteristic of pottery made in Asia Minor was its red color, which was conspicuous by its presence in Syria. The gold and silver works of the period of early Islam are non-extant. The earliest extant silver work of Islam is the casket in the Cathedral of Girona, which is made of wood sheeted with silver gilt plating heavily patterned in response with the scrolling foliation. This casket was made by two craftsmen, Badr and Tarif, for a courtier of Al-Hakam. Second, 961 to 76 AD, the Umayyad ruler of Spain. The Muslims, goldsmiths and craftsmen had excelled in metalwork. They introduced several novelties in engraving, carving, and floral designs. Other ways of decorating metals, beside raising pattern in relief or engraving them, were practiced by the Muslims craftsmen. They excelled in the art of inlaying designs in gold and silver, in bronze and brass, a process performed in several ways known as the masanding. In the 15th century, the Oriental trades established by Italian cities during the Crusades flourished exceedingly. Eastern products became popular in the splendid pageantry of the petty Italian princes, whose workmen adopted them as their models and began to emulate their triumphs. In Venice, Muslims' metalwork inspired native craftsmen so profoundly that a distinct Ventine Oriental school arose in which Muslims' techniques and designs were adopted to the Renaissance taste. The royal palaces in Muslim states bore metalwares of exceptional beauty in the designs. The famous Muslim historian Al-Makrizi gives a long list of heirlooms hoarded in the palaces of the Fatimid Caliph of Egypt, which include vases for narcissus, flowers and violets, golden birds and trees set with precious stones. The Persian travelers Nasir Khosrow, who had a chance to see the Fatimid palace in 1047, describes a throne kept in the 12th room, which bore excellent metalwork and was decorated with scene of chase. This had a wonderful golden trellis. Among the Abbasid palaces of Baghdad was one named Darul Shajar. It contained a tree in the middle of a tank made entirely of gold, which birds perched on the branches, made also of gold and studded with the precious stones. The peacock throne of Shah Jahan in India was of exquisite artistic beauty. It was made of gold set with precious stones. The bronze, brass, and copper works of the early Islamic period are extant. One of these is a huge bronze griffin which stands in Pisa, Italy, which was probably brought from the Fatimid palaces of the 11th century AD. The inlaid metalwork in Muslim countries reached its peak during the 12th century AD, and Muslim craftsmen were considered by all to be the masters of this art. A specimen of this period is the brass ewer kept in the British Museum. A large number of metal wares and articles with inlaid work made for decorative purposes were introduced by Muslim craftsmen during the 13th and the 14th centuries AD. New designs were invented day after day, which could satisfy the refined tastes of the cultured and wealthy Muslims. The Persian craftsmen during these centuries introduced great refinement in their metalwares compared to Mughal and Egyptian ones. But the devastation wrought by Mongol hordes in Baghdad, Syria, Persia, and Turkestan struck a death blow to the pursuits of the arts and scattered their art traders as well as their artisans. Bad luck. So this was the second lecture of contribution of Muslim in fine and minor arts. Please keep on watching my channel, Dr. Abu Abdullah.